With that information, let's move into a meditation and channel, and even hearing about people that choose to reject love and reject light. It kind of hurts my heart a little to know that there are those out there that really have that low level of consciousness. And so I'd like to ask you to join me in seeing if we can send a wave of benevolence and love to those on our planet who are rejecting love and light. Because what Kryon teaches is they still have that spark of the divine within them. They're just choosing not to acknowledge it. But they still are a piece, a living and walking piece of the Creator. Close your eyes and focus on the energy of love that does exist within your heart. If you were tuning in to us, you have a bright, sparkling heart full of love, full of light, and you have a powerful ability to affect others around you. And because we are now joining together as a collective, our powerful light is magnified. And with that magnification, we are just going to send that as a beautiful, delicious, gentle, warm, loving embrace to those on the planet in this moment who have not accepted the love of God, who reject the light. And we're not judging, and we're allowing ourselves to see the magnificence that is underneath the layers of protection that they've coded upon themselves to be in survival consciousness. And so we just send pulsating waves of love and light so that they're aware that they too are loved beyond measure. Because God is not a judging God. God loves every single human on the planet. That is the phrase, you are dearly loved beyond measure. And so let us now allow Kryon, who gave us that message, your love beyond measure, to connect with us. Thank you, Kryon.
Following up on my partner's answer and the meditation you just heard, there are those who would wring their hands and say, I see the evil around me or in humanity. How can we fight the darkness? The answer I have always given, dear ones, is you never have to fight the darkness. All you have to do is create light. That's all. The darkness cannot exist when light is there. It cannot. And in that, we present yet again the idea that the light around you that you create yourself is far, far more effective than you think. Instead of trying to fight that which is dark, creating light almost diminish by itself. We're doing a series of 4 channelings this month, and if you could title them, they're all about timing. So far we have given you 2 examples of timing in 2 categories, and this is the 3rd. And this one is for you. It's about you in your life and timing that is critical and important for you. Now, this particular message has been taught by my partner for years. But he and others are aware that the messages that he teaches sometimes have not been seen by the many who are starting to then come online, as they say, wake up to grander truths, as they say, and perhaps tune in I'm going to give it to you again. And I want to make sure you truly hear this, because it is so unusual and different from what you expect. The subject is the timing of what you have that's spiritual. So many of you listening to my voice right now, watching this program, perhaps either live or in a replay, have had inklings, intuitions, even direct messages from Spirit about your life, or perhaps what you were supposed to do in the future, or what you're supposed to create. And you have all along felt that perhaps this was it. Time to write a book, perhaps. Time to open some kind of spiritual center or a healing practice, perhaps. There is a grander kind of communication. And what I mean by that, you might have had an intuition. Yes, I've always wanted to do this, or yes, this is what I know that I'm here for. And then in this new energy, that will be enhanced, almost as though you're getting a direct message from Spirit. Yes, this is what you're to do. And if you have been so fortunate to feel this in such a way that you now understand, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do, what is next for you? Well, the answer for you is obvious. You do it. And so for those of you who perhaps got a message to start a healing center or some other program or an online program of something, you begin it. And you say, well, how can I start, or what can I do, or this or that? And perhaps if it's ambitious, you have to rent something or go someplace, and it doesn't work. Now, there are so many of you who've had this happen in an older energy. And sometimes in that older energy, it comes to you in a way that is so profoundly there. And so in that energy, you've actually tried it, and you started. But you reached a block here and there, and the people weren't there or right for you, or the funding wasn't right for you, or didn't come, or you started it on your own and tried to fund it yourself, and it didn't work. And that's even worse, because that then, of course, is a scar. It's a scar on that which you think is your spiritual goal. You tried it, it didn't work, even though you got a message that it was supposed to. So what happens next? Let's just say that there are some of you listening right now who had a big message in the past to do something, and I have a message for all of you. And this is the message. Are you ready? Who said you were to do it now? And the answer you would have, is, of course I'm supposed to do it now. And this is where it gets good, because here is where your linearity and your humanness get in the way of spiritual messages. In your life, dear ones, any authority figure, whether it was in school, or whether it was home, or whether it was your boss at work, when they said, I want you to do this, they meant when? And the answer is now. But when Spirit shows you something, it's not that way. Here is the message I really, truly want to get across to you today about timing for these steps. Is you receive confirmation, or you start to collect that which your intuition says is what you're supposed to do. And collect it meaning that you start finding the ideas that will go into it and what you might do to make it and accomplish it. But you don't actually do it until the timing is right. Now, for those of you who tried something when you thought the timing was right in a past energy and it didn't work, it's harder for you to do it again, because you already think you failed. How linear of you. All you did was you did it at the wrong time. Well, then the next question is, how do I know the right time? And the answer is really good. It will be shown to you. There will be no question. When it's right, somebody will come up to you, like maybe a year later. You're supposed to build a healing center. You got all ready to go, perhaps, and nothing falling into place. And so now you're sitting there saying, "Oh, I'd like to build a healing center with you, and I've got all the resources." And you go, "Oh, yes, this would be a good thing," because you realize you should have waited. There are many of these things that we present to you slowly. We give you confirmation, and Spirit loves you so much that it's not going to let you sit and wallow in wonder. When you have something really good, light to spread to this planet, programs that'll work, classes to do, books to write, healing centers to build. And that will then be given to you as an aha and a yes, and this is why you're here, dear one. And then we're saying, stop and wait. Wait for the right things to come along, and they will. They will. Because it was given to you for that reason, not so you can sit there and wonder if you failed. Spirit loves you enough to go in the second round with you, perhaps we're waiting for, or the resources that perhaps you were waiting for, or perhaps, even in the case of my partner, the information that was missing that now would be given to you that completes the puzzle. So again, we tell you, you have a very linear idea of when, and that has to do with timing. Spirit loves you enough to give you information in advance for you to look at and let mature and grow upon. And then when the timing is right, to activate that which you knew you came for. Does that make sense to you, dear ones? That there would be that much love. It doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't have to happen all at once. It's up to you completely. So the next time you get this wonderful idea, or perhaps you're shown something that you truly are here to do, and do it immediately. Stop for a moment and say, is it complete? Is it ready? Do I have the resources? And those perhaps I'm supposed to meet who will then complete the picture. And if it doesn't feel right, then wait. And know it's okay to wait. And nothing will be harmed in waiting for the right things at the right time. Timing is the key, dear ones. And we are with you in the timing. We'll supply you with what you need in order to accomplish those things that you came for. It's a great message about timing that's personal, isn't it? There's more. I'm Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner steps away as normal, and he's a bit unprepared for what follows. For I've told him it is a bit complex. He is, after all, an interpreter. And the years that he has spent doing this is where he can convert a multi-dimensional language that comes at him in such a different way into a stream of consciousness and language that would be more commonplace for you. If you could see it linearly, you'd see that the thoughts occur several times for clarity. He has to sort them out and present them then in a linear fashion, not double, not triple. Sometimes they will come in backwards. That is to say, the adjectives, the subjects, the verbs, they'll come in a language that he's not used to, and he has to sort it out. This has become natural to him, like an interpreter of another language. But when the concepts are odd, it is more difficult. So let's start with a basic concept: love. No matter who you are, listening today, here today with me, I want you to sit peacefully and just be with me. If it were possible, and perhaps someday it will be, if it were possible to have a situation where we could sit with one another and I could take your hand. I want this to be one of those times. We're getting closer. The veil between humans and that which is the creative source of energy, that veil starts to lessen, lift, if you wish, become more transparent. And in that, humans are starting to see so many things. And they see it in a different way. Awarenesses are starting to be generated. And you're starting to see things that perhaps you didn't see before. With more awareness, you become more comfortable. Those who are in the dark are afraid. And you are afraid of so much. Who is there? What are they going to do? What is the energy that you're going to run into or not? The great unknown is that which you cannot see. And light workers and old souls are starting to see better. In parts of the world that are in strife completely, always, we have said the words, color is coming. And that is a metaphor because those areas are in black and white, and they always have been. And when you start to see shades of gray and they go into color, it's a metaphor of new awarenesses. And with those awarenesses come solutions that have never been thought of before. Solutions require both sides of an issue become aware. That, dear ones, is where we want to begin. For those who are not here, I am in the country of New Zealand. I am in the north, in a city called Auckland. There are those in front of me that were not part of anything that we did before this, and there are some who were. But nobody who is listening that is not here was part of what we're going to talk about. It is so difficult to explain some concepts that are not linear to you, no matter how often we speak of them. So just sit with me and listen. There was a small group of humans on the tour last week. We went to a special lake called Wanaka. It was a perfect day, and the sun shone upon us. My partner sat on a rock and started to channel, and everything started to shift. He spoke of many things, and I'll review that. He again spoke through me of the crystalline grid, of how it was starting to change and what it was about. He talked about the fact that the grid is human remembrance. It remembers actions of human beings. It absorbs emotions. In that group, there were 3 who had a major epiphany of life as they started to tune into that grid. They made life decisions at that moment that they'll carry with them, not only this life, but when they awaken to the next. I talked about so many kinds of things, including those who would listen later. And the recorder was stopped. It was not to be recorded, any of it, not even the beginning. There was no mystery on how the recorder stopped. My partner does not remember any of this. But right before you started, and right before the recording was to be engaged, it was on and running. And my partner reached down and turned it off. He doesn't remember that. On purpose, the things that followed for the next 20 minutes were private. And yet I talked about those who would hear it later, and those who would respond to what they were doing there at that moment later, as though the recorder was working and operating. And now I'm going to explain why, the best I can through my partner. During the trip in this great land, this pristine place, the place they call the Second Lemuria, the place where so many Lemurians came away from that island that was sinking, the history that we've given you, those people postured this land in beauty, also in consciousness, and visited a node called Iraqi. We listed this node even before 2012. You knew it was here, and it remained silent. This is a time capsule that was put here by the Pleiadians. No matter what you think of this information, of how bizarre it might be, or whether it was really true, you really don't have a substance of truth to refer to when we speak of these things, and I know this. And so that's why I'm saying disengage that which is intellect at the moment and just listen. Sit with me for a moment and just be loved and listen to the story. The time capsule would open at the right time when it was paired. And we did. This was the reason for the visit to South Island completely. And we paired it up, and you can find out where that is, and you can look at it in the northern hemisphere of the planet, in Russia. The pairing of these two nodes and nulls has engaged something. Finally. You needed to have this many of them engaged. It was a divine engagement, these two. It had to wait until this year. This year, 2016. 2016 is a 9. It is a completion year. And at this part of the year, we aligned these two together. Beautiful, timed perfectly. And those at Wanaka felt it all. I want to tell you what was engaged. There is a communication coming up that is multidimensional, that involves this crystalline grid. What happens is when human beings have a divine epiphany of any kind, especially on pristine land where nothing has happened and there have been no wars or no major battles and no layers and layers and layers of history, when it's really connected to the earth, when it opens up so strongly, when somebody has a major epiphany that will last for lifetimes and lifetimes, it is imprinted right there in the grid. But because of the engagement of these two, a node and a null, these two, it starts to change what the magnetics do and what the crystalline grid does. Dear ones, I'm here to tell you that what happened at Wanaka happened all through the grid. It's becoming delocalized. And so therefore the invitation was for all to hear it and feel it who wanted to, no matter where they were on the planet. It didn't refer to the recording. And it went further, and it said, those of you who have these kinds of thoughts and discoveries and epiphanies are somehow talking to all the rest of humanity. And now you know why. It begins to shape itself differently than you ever thought it would. We have talked about this crystalline grid over and over. How localized it is when you walk into a battlefield and you feel that which is awful and happened, it stays in the battlefield. And you walk away from it and you realize it's over there where it happened. That's the crystalline grid in the old days. Now the grid truly starts to become multidimensional, where everything happens at the same time. But this particular grid is now being tuned not to drama and horror and war, but to celebration, epiphany, love, laughter, joy, discovery. And generation after generation will start to implant these things, and the earth is going to feel it through the crystalline grid. And they don't have to walk where you walked. Let me interpret. This is a good place for epiphanies. Because when you have the pristineness of the land, even that which had the consciousness of the creative source and Lemuria, when you have this, things that happen here are going to go into the grid, and all are going to participate much faster than other places. Where the crystalline grid has remembered so much that has been of a negativity, of the wars. Dear ones, you live in a place that is profoundly hooked to the new energy of Earth, profoundly connected to the new human on the planet. Those who have never been here, this may be a call for them to come and experience not just the beauty, but the pristineness of a land that is connected directly to Gaia. My partner took me to Ireland, and we spoke of this in a different way. We spoke of the anomalies that have happened with the grids that would create a null, a void of energy, of a grid. And so Ireland was one where the energy of Gaia poured out. It even makes some uncomfortable. Where they've been seeing little people for hundreds of years. And that's real. It's almost like an uncontrolled Gaia that presents itself all the time. This is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a balanced, complete, beautiful, benevolent, compassionate energy of nature, which knows your name. And anyone who has traveled this land in the north or the south knows it. Perhaps you were born here, perhaps you lived here all of your life. When you get out of town and into these places, you never get used to it. Ever. Because you feel it talking to you. Oh, you can deny it, but it's always there. Sit and listen to this story, because it plays significantly into New Zealand. It was time for this node and this null to be connected. And in that, the engagement has happened. The two have been engaged in an action that will start allowing the crystalline grid of this planet to become more multidimensional, so that the greatest epiphanies and discoveries and awarenesses of humans in pristine places like this will be transferred immediately all over the planet. Now you know how it is that humans are going to go through the muddle of a place that has had only war? How do you scrape away the history of drama and death and sorrow? Well, you don't have to scrape anything away, because this particular grid is having placed upon it, the top of it, the things that happen in places like this. There are other places like this that are pure. And where humans visit them and have meetings on purpose and have those who come alive and aware, it goes everywhere. This is called a fast track to enlightenment. And I've just given you the ABCs of how this works with the crystalline grid. And until these two were matched, and until we could then, in this time, in this year, put them together, we couldn't even tell you what was going to happen. And the reason is this: because, dear ones, you have free choice. And there are certain things that have to be in place before each matched pair. Not only that, don't take this wrong, but the ones yet to be matched, they have no matched pair at this point. It's done in the moment, where they should be, depending upon where the consciousness of Earth is. And so it wasn't known until last week. You're in the right place at the right time. Here's the challenge. In this room, here's the challenge. I want you to awaken fully, even more than you have. And I want you to know that you are sharing your awakening, not personally, but in general, with a crystalline grid that is starting to vibrate and come alive for humanity, not just for this area. This is a profound step of difference on the planet. What happens here and other places like this, where there has been no war, starts to affect the places that have. The prophecy of the eagle and the condor is the coming together of hemispheres. This is one way, profoundly, that the mother hemisphere, the pristineness, the femininity of this hemisphere will change the north. It is no accident that the null is in the north. The handshake is complete. The engagement begins now. And what happens now, and what happened at Wanaka, changes the planet. That is the message of today. Profound it is, the changes that are occurring. But I want you to know that this particular place you call New Zealand is playing a major role in it. My partner has been drawn here now 4 times. I will tell you something that is up to this point confidential. The first time he came, he was uncomfortable. He became sick. He carries part of that even with him to this day. He came to the island before it was ready for him. He didn't want to come back because he was afraid it would happen again. But when he came back, he realized it embraced him. He fell in love with it. And part of that is the reason he sits here now. The human has to be involved in these things, not just the creator. Everything that happens on this planet is human-driven. The channeling you hear is the human in a chair. The ears that hear it are humans who are receptive to it. The changes that will occur on the planet will come through human consciousness. Everything that we have put in place through that which is a Pleiadian or otherwise, or Gaia, responds to humans. Sit with me a moment and feel the love that has gone into this, or the synchronicity that you're alive today to know it and not destroyed in a world war. What happens now and today and this week will affect generations. But this is the land right now that will broadcast what happens to light workers all around the planet. Did you feel that? Your maturity, old soul, is going to be that which goes all over the planet. There are other places like this, but not exactly like this one. It's a wonderful story. It's a true story. It's one we are so proud to tell you. Spirit can be proud when it comes to love. One of the few things that pass untouched through the veil is laughter, joy, benevolence, compassion, and love. That's God in you. And we think of that which has been matched in the node and the null that is operating, the crystalline grid that is moving, that is changing your part in it, all of these things. It's all we can do to be still. There's an entourage in this room that wants to hug every one of you and say thank you for all that you have gone through, which has been difficult and old and ugly and dark, because you're coming into the light. That is why you're called a light worker. And it hasn't been easy, and it still isn't. Finally, there are those here who are also able right now to drop the old stuff. A beginning is at hand. We said at Wanaka, it's not a new beginning, it's a beginning. It is so different in a paradigm. It isn't a return to when things were better. Is it an advancement into the light? Would you like to live longer? Would you like to have more joy in your life? Would you like to walk out the door and see things differently than you do? Would you like to relax with some things that you're not relaxed with right now? I know who's here. You don't have to wake up every morning and think about these things, dear ones. I know who's here. You can drop them right now. And if you do, and if you can, and if you will, it goes right into this crystalline grid in this place, and the planet feels the process. It helps to scrub clean those very dark areas. Epiphanies of you change everything. Others who are listening, I'm telling you, the crystalline grid will work this way for you too. Every single place is different. We speak in the one, perhaps, that is the most pristine. But there are others where very little has happened and very few people live, where this is not as possible. But you can travel there too. I encourage ceremony where ceremony has never been done. I encourage wilderness trips to go to pristine places and sit and look at the mountains and the water and shake hands with Gaia and examine your life, because that will then go right into the grid. It's a new paradigm of thought, perhaps, for different reasons, perhaps. And it's all part of the new human being and processes yet to come. Congratulations, dear ones, for everything you've accomplished, and also for what is about to happen. More on that later. For now. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner has learned something over the years. The process he has, which you call channeling, is also his sweet spot. Regardless of what is happening around him in his life, the issues, the frustrations, the problems which he has, some of the same that you do, they all disappear. When he sits in front of Spirit in this way. This is available for all of you. And it's not called channeling. It's not even called meditation. You can do it with your eyes wide open even when you drive. This is a 24/7 relationship with what we call the house in the fog. We spoke yesterday about this elusive house in the fog that my partner found, that you have found as well. That so many of you listening to this have found. And it is a metaphor for the house which is yours with the many rooms. Not the house of a prophet or a belief system. Not the house that somebody told you was available for many and it's the same house. The reason it's in the fog is because you must discover it yourself with your intent. It does not show itself, dear ones. And this is by design. So that humanity, when it starts to move, will have done so on its own, by itself, with pure intent and discovery. Now, there are all manner of kinds of houses in the fog. One of them is integrity. In all kinds of things, without any spirituality, just a different way of thinking. But the one I want to continue talking about right now is that which we discussed yesterday. The house in the fog is you. The power of you, what's in the house, and what's different there. Let us back up. I told you yesterday that there was a time when my partner was pleased with everything he was. There was no reason to search for any more. And this suits much of human population and civilization. They're in the box we talked about this morning. Don't disturb them. They're working with it. It's happening. In my partner's case, he found the house in the fog, that is to say, the one that was hidden, because that which occurred to him pushed a button of curiosity. Is there more? Now, Spirit cannot show you the house, but it can push the button of curiosity over and over and over. Sometimes it's through synchronicity. You bring a friend to this meeting. They don't understand anything that's happening, but when they leave, they realize that perhaps there's a house in the fog someplace with their name on it. And it starts a process that they must then pursue. This is free choice. The metaphor is clear. You've got to want to go there. Most of you sitting here and even listening to my voice have done so. But now it gets good. There are many rooms in this house, and in an old energy, you have opened the door and explored so many of them. We mentioned yesterday that so many of them were beliefs. And the challenge was to see if they matched yours. Could you justify the idea that you'd lived before? That's one of the rooms. Is it possible there's something called an Akashic record which would have then recorded what you did before? That's another room. So far, all of the rooms are very 3D. That is to say, they represent things and beliefs. Is it possible that sound and color has vibration that would heal? It's facts, beliefs, processes, even physics. And it requires that you open the door, take a look, close it if you're not ready, and come back when you are, if ever. And here we sit with the house in the fog with many rooms. Now we want to tell you something. You've now discovered a stairway. And you start going up the stairway, and the name of the stairway is profound. It has many names, dear ones. It is the shift of the planet, the precession of the equinoxes, the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, the city on the hill, peace on earth. And the stairway beckons itself for you to discover new rooms in your own house. The second story literally is the next story to be told. And you walk up the stairs and you are presented now with more rooms, and they're not near as easy. They present now a puzzle that deals with your inner core, that which is you, not necessarily something you want to believe in or you're curious about, but something that you have to work with that will change you forever. And there they are. You can even see the names on the doors, and some of you won't want to open them. And others will be brave enough to say, I'll try now. Come back later when I understand it more. The first one is called purpose. Very difficult, very difficult. A concept. What is your purpose on the planet? Not 3D. I am talking about your soul on earth. Why so many lifetimes? Why at all? Why now? And some of you have it figured out and some of you don't. And many don't want to try. It's too complicated. You're afraid of too much responsibility. You 3Dize it. You want to box it in there. You'll say, I know what my purpose is to help humanity and write this book and do this and this and this. You missed it completely. Purpose of spiritual soul. Why are you here? And I will tell you that as that door starts to open and you really want to look at it, you're going to be presented with some curious things. For that door inside contains puzzles. You have to take your three-dimensional mind and throw it away. And you're going to have to look at the concept of life at all. And if you ever found out the true reason, and you will, you'll smile. And that will lead you to the next house. You exist because you are part of the creative source and the plan that is beautiful. It has nothing to do with you. Your purpose is God. Ask those who walked the land here thousands of years ago what was their purpose, and they would say to be part of that which was everything, to balance what was. So much were they a part of it, they didn't even know how old they were. They weren't counting. It's time for you to stop counting and stop figuring it out. Because when you see real purpose, you'll know you are part of a very, very large plan of benevolence, of galactic purpose and love. It is universal. It's not about you. because you are a piece of everything. Can you decentralize? Or will it always be about the you that you walk around in the body that you have? This is the second story, dear ones. This is those who wish to become quantum. The second room is called self-balance. This is not obvious. But dear ones, if you accomplish the first one, and you have a far larger sense of why and who and purpose, you're going to start relaxing and realize that the things that take place and happen to you are fleeting. And that although you may mark them as significant, you may be frustrated by them, even fear. If you pass the first room, you'll also know that you will recover in whatever that means, because you are forever and you are self-balancing. Inside you is the master healer, the master psychologist, the channeler. All of those things, because you are part of the plan of God. You are self-balancing. If you are in the depths of despair, in the closet, a victim of all things in your mind, it's only a matter of time when that'll go away. The wise human will know that, and when they're in the depths of despair, will find something to keep them busy. Because time will take care of it, and you'll know it. Can you imagine? Can you imagine, no matter how you feel, no matter how angry or frustrated you are, if you knew there was the light coming, and all you had to do was wait, you would act differently instead of scrambling for solutions and survival. It's a different way of thinking, isn't it? A whole different concept. Room number 3. If you would get past the first 2 rooms, number 3 has a sign on it that says completeness. You are complete. How many of you keep waiting for what you're supposed to be doing? Don't raise your hand. There is a feeling of linearity within you. The clock is always ticking, and you want to know what you're going to do when you grow up. And this is very common, especially with old souls. Especially because you see at some level the power that you have. And you're never complete. You're never complete. When you go to bed at night and you think about who you are and where you are and what's going on, can you honestly say, I am that I am. I am complete with myself. If nothing ever happens past here, it's beautiful. Thank you, God. And I will tell you that most light workers don't think that way. What about the incomplete project that's going to make the difference, or where you're about to go, or the next level, or those kinds of things? It's a human bias of time, and also of what we will call bias of hierarchy. You're always reaching to the next rung to be higher than you are today, with the idea that a higher vibration is going to make you better and those around you better, not realizing you're complete. You're complete. Now, you may do many things in linearity, but you're complete. God sees you as complete. Why can't you? There's a difference here. Very difficult, very subtle to understand when you say there's things that I must accomplish and do. Oh, how human of you. Not when you're spiritually whole and complete. And that should give you a feeling of relaxation. No matter what I'm going through, you'll say, I'm complete. I know the purpose is beyond this lifetime, even the next lifetime. I am eternal and I'm complete. I'll walk this planet and do what I must, but it's not going to bother me because I am complete. Can you have peace with yourself? This is also very difficult. Those who have passed the first doors and are complete have total peace with themselves. And you may be in a situation where you're not finished and you know you're not finished, or you're frustrated because things around you are not moving. In fact, you feel like you're never settled. The biggest challenge: can you be at peace with yourself anyway? The new normal is this way. It pushes and pulls you with an old energy that tells you you are incomplete, you're not worthy, and you're never satisfied. You want to know what a balanced old soul looks like? They glow because they're satisfied and peaceful with who they are. And they may be in the midst of turmoil in 3D. Do you see how these rooms are more advanced than you thought? They're difficult even for my partner to deliver the message because he has linear concepts and he is discussing quantum ones. The final door is the hardest. It's difficult to even have a name on it. We're going to call it the new human. It's evolution. Are you ready for such a change that you won't even feel like a human being? A change that you cannot fathom, and one that all planets of ascension have gone through. So remarkably difficult is it that some have had many psychological problems with it because it is so different that you feel you're losing your mind. And yet it is sustainable through the love of God and with the help of holding the hand of the Creator. Dear ones, when you start being in touch with your DNA at a higher percentage and you're moving toward what we will call the 44 percentile, your brain functions differently and starts to work with innate and even the heart energy. A new process begins with you. It affects everything you are. You see things that you've never seen before, awarenesses of things you were never aware of before. You hear differently, you perceive differently, and it's all you can do not to be strange. You keep it to yourself until you find that others are experiencing similar things. This is one of the most difficult shifts that's coming for humanity. The Pleiadians went through it. They know what it is. If I told you what they could do now at DNA working at over 80%, you would recognize it because this is what the masters who walked the planet were able to do. Think about this. Consciousness over physics. The ability to produce objects and things with your mind that are real. Where nature actually obeys the physics of your consciousness because it is higher than that. Did you hear that? That the consciousness that you have, which is mastery itself, nature obeys it. Are you ready for that? You say you are. No, you're not. Not yet. But it will begin slowly. And when it does, you're not going crazy, dear ones. You've just met yourself, the real self. Some of you will know what I'm talking about. Not too distant future. Now listen. All of you. Listen. Complete with yourself. Look in the mirror. I want you to imagine you don't look like that. Don't let the gender fool you. You're going to look eternal. The next time around, the next time around, the next time around. There's a lot to do. And you'll keep coming back and doing it and living longer and wiser as you do. And the mirror can never reflect the second story. This channel is a puzzle to many. But it had to be given on this land. The energy is correct for it. It's why some of you came. And you'll want to hear it again. Like all of the others, this channel is given in love and benevolence to those who have passed the marker. We've seen this before, and it is exciting. Be complete. Breathe. Relax. And know that all is well. And so it is. So it is. So it is. Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.
So let's do a little meditation and get ready for the channels. If you would just close your eyes, take a breath, and another breath. And now is the perfect time to let your shoulders relax and the back of your neck and your face. Breathing into your body, letting your lungs fill up and filling that area in your chest and your belly so that when you exhale, it is relaxing and you are clearing the decks. And your thoughts and busyness of this morning can move to the back of your mind. And you can get ready to receive. You can open that part of you that is the receptive part. Open your mind and your heart. Open your feelings and your allowing. Getting ready for the most wonderful, loving messages, for the honoring that comes to all of us when we receive these beautiful visits from Adirondda and Kryon.
So it is good day to you, huh? So very good to see your light, your brightness, your divine presence. Even though we're not here looking at you in your right eyeballs right there, virtual reality, everything is possible. You are indeed here in this wondrous studio. You see, that is what we wish to talk with you about today and tomorrow. It is about the divine order of things. There are things that you could never imagine happening, and then they start happening. You know, when you trust, when you throw your trust right into the divine order of all things, the universe starts shifting around and saying, oh, that is what they want. That is what they want. This is where we're going. We're going to rearrange this. You know, there's an old saying that the universe will rearrange itself to accommodate your picture of reality. It's a very old saying. However, that is ultimately true, that the universe will actually rearrange itself to accommodate that which you are asking for. So when you turn everything over to that divine order, then the universe starts bringing up a solution there, or the universe starts bringing up a solution here. We could give you example after example after example in the vessel Marilyn's life and in the Joy's life, because with that energy, They are a part of the example, as you know. They are a part of that divine frequency. You know, they will tell you later, one was in California, one was in Missouri. Never the two should meet, and here they are together 10 years later. So in that capacity, the energy of divine order is something that you still get the opportunity to trust. You still get the opportunity to surrender to all possibilities. And as you surrender to all possibilities, you get the opportunity to think, what is it that I want? We'll talk about that later. What is it that we're going to pivot into? We'll talk about that later too. But as you are trusting, trust is probably one of the most difficult parts, because you see what appears to be havoc creating everywhere, chaos creating everywhere. And yet it is Sekhmet herself that says, from chaos comes change. There are some that call our dear friend Sekhmet and the destroyer of chaos, because she elicits so much change. Well, change is upon you. The world is shifting in every way possible. And what is happening there is its dimensional frequency is actually shifting. There are those scientists that say that your DNA inside of your body is actually shifting. Now, we don't know how that can be possible, but we know that everything is possible. So in this energy and in this whole feeling of trying to stay on, what does they call those boards that you're standing up on, and you have a paddle, or what are they?
Stand-up board.
A stand-up board that you're trying to balance yourself. That seems like a simple name, eh?
Paddleboard.
A paddleboard. You see, that is how simple it is you're learning to balance on something you may never have balanced before. So one way that you can help your cells in your field accommodate that is to start doing things beyond your routine. Yes, we know you wonderful humans are very routine-oriented people for the most part. You get up at a certain time, you have your morning routine where you have your tea or your coffee, or maybe it is like your Vessel Marilyn smart tea that she drinks, or maybe it is your magic omelette that you make, whatever is your routine. So to help your cells accommodate this new frequency, we're going to ask you to change your routine. Shift your consciousness. It can be as simple or as complicated as you wish. Sometimes even changing your routine to eat with your non-dominant hand is enough to shift things around in the cells of your body. Sometimes it is about getting dressed in a different order. Do you know that when you dress yourself, and we know that you probably do at this point in your life, that you do the same thing in the same capacity? We were talking to our Vessel Marilyn this morning, and we said, dress yourself in a different order. Well, as she was putting on her pants, she does not want us to tell you this, just to let you know. As she was putting on her pants, she nearly fell over because she was not used to the different order of the pant leg going into one leg. She's saying, do not talk about this. But you see, that is important for you to know and understand, that just by shifting your conscious routine, your cells will start getting prepared for something new. They are prepared for something new. They were preparing for something new in April, and then everyone locked in and everyone stayed home. So now you are venturing out just a bit, and your cells are still saying, oh no, we liked the quietness over here. We liked that into lockdown, huh? because you got used to that. Now, you're going to get used to something new. Yes, take a deep breath. As you get used to this aspect that is the new normal, the new human, the new frequency, it is power-filled. That is why we want you to prepare the way by doing things outside of your regular routine, outside of your regular frequency. What would happen if you actually got into the car on the opposite side of the car and tried to crawl over the console? Maybe that's not such a good idea. You might knock things over. However, look at your routine into how you cook, how you eat, how you walk, how you talk, how you connect with others, and see what part of that you can start changing. What part of that you can start shifting so your cells are preparing for the new routine that is coming. So yes, there is more newness coming. We have told you, our dear friend Kryon has told you, there's more newness coming your way. And you get the opportunity to trust that it is still divine order and process. It is still a part of that divine frequency that is you. Dearest beings of light, we love the magnificence of you. We honor you. And we bid you namaste.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I would like to do a series of 4 channels, as I often have been doing. Not all of the meetings that my partner puts together would lend itself to this kind of thing. An examination of one subject that would allow multiple parts instead of one simple short channel. And this one is going to be what I call germane to the situation of now. If those which would tune in later to this did not look at that which was the date, they wouldn't necessarily understand what we're doing. You are in the middle of what some has called wave number 2 in your country, of that which you have then called the lockdown. Perhaps not as locked as the first one, but still. The time when you cannot do the things you normally do, the time when you're required to wear things you would not normally wear, not go out and celebrate, perhaps not even go to work. These are difficult times, and they take their toll. I would like to title these particular channels, Finding Joy in the Midst of Chaos. Finding Joy in the midst of chaos. I cannot underestimate the healing power of joy. I did a channel recently talking about some of the profundities and the influences that are on the human being by certain emotions and actions and things. And joy was one of them. And now I want to continue on that. I want to give you some information probably you didn't even know. When all of this virus talk is said and done, and it's history, and it will be, there can be a lot of things known that are not being known at the moment, but only suspected. And I'll tell you what one of them is. Health workers, hospitals, those who deal with unhealthy people are going to show in their graphs and charts of numbers the uptick, as they're going to call it, of other diseases
during your virus. In other words, during this time, when you shield yourself from one thing, you're creating something else. And that something else is being created because your chemistry reacts to it. Your chemistry in your body, which is tuned to your consciousness in such a profound way, reacts to anxiety and fear, stress, unhappiness, and you know I'm right. It's an invitation for other diseases to come in because your immune system is beat up, if you want to call it that, when you don't feel right, when you're fear, when you're anxiety, when you're worried and unhappy. That's what goes on. And so you might say that old adage you've heard where laughter is the best medicine is true. It is true. And physicians hearing this will agree and nod their heads and say, we have seen this. The human being has the ability, through their consciousness alone, to keep themselves alive, even past a point where they shouldn't be. I point this out and have before. Ask a surgeon. They'll tell you that there are so many instances where a grandmother or a grandfather will want to see how an operation on their grandchildren will occur and will wait months until it happens, until they come out of it, and then they'll pass away almost the next day. Ask those in society, psychologists, how that same thing will happen, especially with grandparents, keeping themselves alive until the graduation happens of their grandchildren. And then they pass. That's the kind of control you have. Your body is linked to your consciousness. And so you can actually sustain life if you wish. Do you ever think, if you had something else to look forward that is 10 years away, can you sustain life for that? And the answer is yes. All you have to do is inform your body what you want. You're in charge. You always have been. That's Kryon information from the beginning. But the biggest one is joy, happiness, and peace. These are the things that we have taught for a very long time, and it goes right back to this premise. Every single human being has the ability to create a remembrance of joy in their countenance that has happened in their past, it's in their mind and in that synapse of their brain, pull it forward, paste it on themselves, and be joyful in the time of chaos. This is doable. It's not a trick. It has to come from your own consciousness of desire. You have to cognize what I'm saying. Cognize it. You have to believe it. I've said this before, and I want to go back. Even if you've had a difficult childhood, dear ones, you remember that as a child, there was joy. Playing with that which were your friends or your toys or your animals. Or a time when you were so peaceful with yourself and laughed with yourself. Even if you've had a difficult childhood, those times still occurred. If you've had a good childhood, you know what I'm speaking of. If you've had a childhood where your parents loved you dearly and helped you in every way they could, you know that that inner child of yours, alive then, is still with you because you remember it. Even if you were not mature yet, that inner child has a spark of remembrance that is pasted in your brain. There are some who reject it. There are some who have been taught that when you were a child, you thought as a child, and now that you're an adult, you don't think as a child anymore. Therefore, you're not supposed to be childlike ever. Now, there's truth in that. It's even scriptural. That you should now think as an adult in that you are more responsible now. But that doesn't mean you're not supposed to laugh as a child. That is how your makeup of your consciousness is designed. Dear ones, it's designed to keep those things which make you happy and peaceful on a shelf that's close to you, so you can pull upon them in times of trouble, so you won't go down that what they call rabbit hole of difficulty and darkness where it's difficult to recover. I am talking to some who are in that hole, and I know it. Hard to sleep at night. When you wake up in the morning, it all comes racing back. There's problems. How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? What's going to happen next? Something you didn't even think about a year ago, and here it is. I know. There are tools, dear ones, built into you that can keep you peaceful and even joyful in these times. Imagine the ability to pull upon the memory and the emotions of you as a child at your happiest time. To be able to pull on it on purpose, consciously then paste it on yourself right now in order to get through these times without additional sickness, without the anxiety that you perhaps have at this moment. To add to this puzzle, there are also those who say those things shouldn't be done. They will say, anytime you would act childlike, it is an affront to your gender, especially men, who will say, this is no longer appropriate for my manhood. I will not giggle anymore. Well, if you've been around my partner much, you know he giggles a lot. Because he finds things that are funny, even that in times of trouble, for himself. He designs that, he knows where to go, and he knows how to do it. And he also knows that it's his salvation of health. And that's what I want to tell you about, and that's what I want to teach. There are those who've disengaged themselves from their inner child to such a degree that if you ask them about it, they'll say, oh yeah, I took my inner child and I buried it in the backyard a long time ago. So it's not going to come out, it's dead. And for them it is, because they killed it. Now it's not to say that they cannot resurrect it, because truly it's always there. But in their consciousness, their truth, they killed it. How about you? In all of these things that I'm speaking of, where are you in this department? When you wake up in the morning, how do you feel? Does the anxiety grip your heart as soon as you wake up and you worry all day? Well, if you do, I'll tell you, you're not alone, and that's why I'm giving this channel, dear ones. There's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't need to be. You hear what I'm saying? So many of you right now listening to this, and those listening to this in the future, will relate to this in some way. I want to take these 4 channels and I want to talk about it in a loving way. I'll give you some very practical tools that are going to seem to be too simple or strange or crazy. And I'm going to do that in the next channel. I know you're going to be here because those listening to this will watch the entire program, and those who are listening to this later can find all of the channels in one place, as my partner has said, on his website, where he collects them, numbers them, makes sure that no one is left out. Dear ones, this is, I would say, the message of the day. I'm not going to be talking about profound things of the earth right now or the healing that is coming. I want to talk about the healing that's needed right now, so you stay healthy, so you can pull upon that joy that is there. And as I say, baked into your brain, it's there because you experienced it. You can't delete it. Even though you say you can and you want to, you can't. It's there, and if you want to recapture it, you can. Joy is the great healer of the human being. Laughter is the great healer of the human being. Your chemistry changes, your persona changes, and even that which you consider your outlook of the future will change, because it changes how you think. You remember when you were a child, sitting on the floor, perhaps playing, and you didn't have anything to worry about at all, nothing. The only thing that you had to worry about is how long you had to play. And your mom would come in and say, well, put away your toys. And you said, oh, that's the worst thing that could ever happen. Let's rekindle that time when there was nothing to worry about. I'll be back with some tools, more discussion. And so it is.
So let's have a little meditation to welcome in the Kryon energy that's really already here. Do you feel it? It's beautiful. So how about a nice deep breath? Settling into your chair. And notice that you feel balanced, that you feel different than when you came. And perhaps that you can feel the love in the room and feel the love wash that comes through the room as the entourage of Kryon enters and surrounds us with that honoring of the human and of the human soul's journey in every life, but particularly this life, this evening, this time. Feel the spiritual arms around you that support you on your path, that is always there for you when you remember to take a breath, to go inside and find that place that Spirit lives as a spark of the divine that can be fanned into a flame. In the love and in the honor of the teachings of the day, of the weekend, and in the gratitude and the wash of love from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This was a day of learning. The presentation given today by my partner and his teaching partner was more than information. There is an overall concept in this workshop that is trying to be conveyed, and sometimes with success and sometimes without. And it's this: that there is a consciousness of Spirit in you, an overwhelming benevolence that wants to take you by the hand and lead you through life. There is no wall between us, not really. I speak to you now from the other side of the veil, in what you would call that from the creative source, in a strata of consciousness that speaks to humanity. And there are many of us who do this. This is the purpose of that strata of consciousness, to help humans discover humans and the divine in humans. It doesn't matter what you were trying today to understand. It doesn't really matter. The complexity, what really matters is that at the base of all of it, and the principle of all of it, is the fact that we are here, know who you are, know what you're doing, and there is a benevolent energy that wants to pull you toward us. Dear human being, you're not even in our dimensionality. You cannot see us as we see you. There is a test at hand and you know it. It's a test of energy. How far will you go? How far will you stretch out your hand to meet that which is intrinsic in you? You are piece of the benevolent creation of the earth. That's who you are. Disguised as a human being in corporeal form and not aware of your seeds, of even how you got here. That's who you are. And in that linear form, you ask all of the questions, and we've said this before. How? How many times? How often? What duration? How strong? These are all wonderful questions if we were linear. And we're not. Do you know the power of the spark of compassion and intent with you? Are you aware that God knows your mind? If you give pure intent to say, this is what I want, dear Spirit, I want this, I just don't know how. Do you know what that creates? Intuition in you on how. In other words, if you're confused on what to do next and how to do it and what the timing is to do it, and you're expressing that to a God who loves you and is standing by to help you, you're not hitting a wall that is uncaring. Does it seem like it? We're ready to show you, especially in this energy, we're ready to show you how. But again we say, if you are asking in a linear intellectual way, and we are answering in an intuitive conceptual way, you're not getting it. Because your antenna is linear. You're waiting for the list. You're waiting for that answer that is a linear, practical answer to a practical question. And we are saying to you instead, conceptual things. Wait. It's not time. Later. Maybe. Maybe not. We are trying to give you the concepts that will steer you into things that are even beyond what you're asking for, while your antenna is up waiting for a number of how many times. We are giving to you the concepts of love when you're asking for a duration time. I want you to relax, all of you, into the arms of God right now. What does it mean to you when I say we know who you are? Your soul is so misunderstood. Spiritual religious belief on this planet is in a very old survival energy. It places the soul in a status completely and totally not God. Your soul is somehow suspended in a place that it's going to survive or not survive. It comes once and it's going to be punished or rewarded. What does that sound? Does that sound like the Creator, or does that sound like something that men created for you?
I want you to get rid of the linkage of your soul with something apart from God. Your soul is part of me and you. We are allied. We are the same. There's a new energy on the planet that literally is shouting to you through a transmitter that you're not tuned into yet. And some of you are aware of it. So until you start getting these kinds of messages, I want you to relax and feel the love of it. That you can do. So much misunderstanding. And it all is correctable when you relax and see that we are with you in all things. You don't have to yell. You don't have to repeat. You don't have to turn up any kinds of volumes of anything you do, whether it's frequencies, amounts. We're here. We're next to you the whole time. When you meditate, we've been with you all day. You do understand that, don't you? And when you meditate, it's just like turning the knob and let's get a little closer. But we're already close. We know your name. I want you to approach things gently. Dear Spirit, I don't understand what's happening, and I don't understand what I'm supposed to do next, and I'm a little confused. What should I do? What do you expect we're going to tell you? Take 4 steps, turn left, breathe 5 times, and smile. You'd like that, wouldn't you? It's not going to be that way. And then there is the timing issue. Why don't you understand synchronicity? What is in this picture that is missing for you? And so I present a new metaphor. We're going to cook a meal. This makes my partner very nervous. Just relax. Cooking a fine meal on this planet is an art. You enjoy food. And the best cooks are the ones who start early and prepare and prepare and prepare. And in a real kitchen, there are multiple cooks, but in this metaphor, there's only one. Perhaps you have cooked for a family, and there's just you. Perhaps you've wanted to prepare some meals which are exotic and perhaps a little different than in any kind of recipe. Perhaps you're one who makes up your own recipe. And you know what is involved. You start by compartmentalizing the ingredients, and some of you will actually put them in containers, getting ready for them to be compilated into that which is going to be cooked at the right time. You don't all mix them together. You may have a bowl of lettuce, a bowl of rice, there could be some vegetables here, and then there's the sauces and the ajouts. There are some that are going to be cooked in. There are some that are going to be placed on the meal as it's being cooked later at a certain temperature. And then after it's done, there'll be others that go on it. There'll be seasonings before, during, and after. And you will be putting them in various containers and bowls, and you're getting ready. You may be preparing the night before because there has to be certain things that perhaps would be soaked or marinated in certain ways. Maybe even pre-cooked in order for them to come to the final fruition of the meal when it all comes together in its beauty, its elegance, the aroma, lovely, ready for consumption,
and a beautiful taste. Combined with certain kinds of sauces and certain kinds of then beverages that complement the meal. It's a feast. And you know what you're doing. Congratulations for that, cook. You really know what you're doing. Now I'm going to alter the metaphor. Stand by. Every ingredient in every bowl has a consciousness. And every single ingredient in every single bowl has no idea what you're doing. None. It doesn't even know the final meal. It's just an ingredient. But because it has consciousness, it may also have attitude. Not necessarily attitude that is negative, but surely inquisitive. You are the cook, and you are the creator, and you have put something in a bowl. The lettuce, for instance. It may even be first. It has to be chilled. It may be 24 hours before the meal is even prepared in a final manner, and it has to be chilled. And in the refrigerator it goes, complaining. Why am I in the refrigerator? Look, I couldn't help but notice that there's some other things going on. What's going on? And why am I here in this refrigerator, and how long will it be before I meet the vegetables? Now, the vegetables are mad because they expected something to happen, and nothing's happening because the cook is over preparing something else. The sauce. The sauce has no idea about anything. It's just flat in the dark, seemingly, because it doesn't know why it's being whipped up and what's coming with it. And look at this funny seasoning. This is a metaphor of synchronicity. Dear ones, you're cooking a meal in your life, but it's going to be cooked with others. The metaphor is this. What bowl are you in? How are you being prepared? How long will it be until the other ingredients come together with you in a certain way in order for the final meal to be cooked? Are you all right with the fact that there may be some preparation? You may come together with some other bowls. In a while, not now. How long? It depends upon when these bowls are ready. This is cooked, this is prepared, and this is chilled. And so when you say, dear Spirit, I want to do this, how long is it going to take? What should I do? And the answer is, chill out. Lettuce. My partner wants to have a joke inserted here, and I'm saying no. But he's going to do it anyway. Let us pray. I told him no. The ingredients of the meal are prepared beautifully and with elegance and in a timing that each ingredient is unaware of, completely unaware of. And you're impatient, aren't you, ingredients? To know when and where and how. The cook knows, because the cook looks over all the ingredients and knows the plan. When it comes together, dear ones, it happens unexpectedly to the ingredients and all at once. And when it is pulled together, even after it's pulled together, it's not finished. For again, there are certain ingredients that must be added in mid-cooking. Are you one of those? Are you involved in the preparation, in the outset of the meal's cooking, or later, during? Are you the salt that comes last? You don't know, do you? And that's the point. How much trust do you have in the cook? It boils down, no pun intended, to you trusting that which is the Creator. The meal that is being cooked is the final that you have asked for. Where you're going with this, no matter what it is it personal? Is it with others? Is it a project? Is it that which is healing? Is it that which is job? It's a meal that is being prepared with many ingredients. Do you understand that for you to have an answer, other human beings are involved? Do you understand that they have free choice? Now let's make this meal even more complicated. Every single ingredient not only has an attitude, but they can say no. Imagine what the cook now faces. The vegetables are backing out. You're going to have to get new vegetables. Now that's going to delay the meal just a little bit. As the new vegetables come forward, they are then prepared, and then everybody waits just a little longer. But the meal gets prepared anyway. You see, the cook is patient. Elegant it is. The system, beautiful it is. And misunderstood by almost all of you who are extremely impatient to be cooked. You get it. I know you do. Where are you in the scenario? How long has the meal been being prepared? Are you impatient yet? Do you want the finality now? Can you taste it and yet it's not there? The cook knows your name, dear ones. The cook loves you, dear ones. And everything that we have is benevolent for you. What if you have been waiting so long because you're the lettuce? You've been chilled, you came out, something happened, and you were chilled again. And then suddenly, the cook finds that the ingredients really have come together in an unexpected way, and the meal finality has actually changed. It's going to be something else. Back in the refrigerator for you. Lettuce. And what happens finally is something you couldn't decide if you had a crystal ball that was linear and you could decide what was going to happen. It would be better than that. You see, the cook sees all the ingredients all the time. Nothing is too complex for the cook. But for you, are you willing to understand synchronicity? Seeing how it works requires patience and you to relax. We've asked for this before, even in things that would seem immediate, healing. Sometimes processes on the planet which require answers right away. You do your best, but it's simply part of a greater picture. Or through all of it, we want you to know we have never disengaged from you, ever, ever. You see, we know your name. Could it be any clearer that our hand is stretched to you? The meal is a good one. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Come back into that place of soft awareness. Taking a breath in. Close your eyes. And perhaps with that sound current still vibrating inside you, you feel yourself as the relative of the blue whale, as the record keeper. Breathing softly and deeply into your heart. Thanking your ancient old soul, Akash, for the music, for the vibration, for the opportunity right here, right now, today, to dive more deeply into your own consciousness, into that beautiful place where there is oneness for you. Keeping that oneness inside your heart, hoping and waiting is not anything you have to do anymore. Being. Begin the being in this new beginning of 2020. As you give yourself this year, this opportunity for your beingness to come into a clear focus, a time of awareness when you honor who you are becoming, and all that is available for you.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the first channeling of the year 2020. And I want to start it with something I've said many times. You sit here in this audience, perhaps you listen apart from this audience, and I want to repeat the premise of the channeling, of the reason my partner sits in this chair, and what it's all about. Because the information this year is pointed and profound more than normal. Because you are moving into new energies that have already started occurring right here. There is a creator, and most of the world believes this. One God. There is a creator. And the story is far grander and greater than any of you can imagine, because there is a veil. A veil that keeps you from seeing the majesty of your soul. Every single human being who hears this and listens today in the chair has a beautiful, magnificent part of them which is called the soul. This is also something believed by billions of people on the planet. The soul is the part that is divine, the part that lives forever. And so almost all of humanity already has the concept of a beautiful, loving, benevolent, glorious God. And the soul? So many don't understand that the soul is not standalone energy. It belongs to this creator. That's where you came from. So there's really two parts to every single human being. There's actually more, but the basic two that billions believe is the corporeal human. That is the body, the vehicle you walk around in. And the divine part, the soul. And up to now, in the energies of the years that humans have been on the planet, the soul is something not understood, not acknowledged, not really. You understand it's there, and you learn about it by the shamans and the teachers and the religions, but you don't really understand and work with it until now. If I could give you a principle of what is happening in the new energy that has never happened before,
It is the merge of the soul and the corporeal. It has interesting attributes that some of you are experiencing. Number one, the soul knows everything. Therefore, some of you are starting to receive knowledge truly that is part of a knowingness that you realize you were never taught. It's a knowingness that is beyond esoteric. It is a knowingness of practical spirituality. There's a reason you're here. There's a mechanism, if you want to call it that, of physics that applies to all things, including your soul. Multidimensionality is starting to occur. And so in this new energy, what you start to see and what you start to experience is that meld. And it explains so many who sit here with knowledge they don't understand where it came from. And some of you question it and some of you don't. You realize what it is, where it came from, and how beautiful it is. What's a human being going to do with that? And that is the lesson at hand, not today. But it will be the subject of more channels. What do you do with information that starts to become merged with your corporeal self? Is everyone getting it? The answer is no. The old souls are. The ones who haven't gone through the school of life many times are not. And it's not about privilege, dear ones. It's about experience. If you're in a school, you acknowledge the ones who just showed up don't know as much as the ones who are graduating. This is practical. So the old soul on the planet who has been here over and over and over and over is starting to receive information. But that's not the subject of today. This beautiful, benevolent God of yours, the one that you share consciousness with. Are you ready for that? That soul of yours has a divine consciousness from the Creator, and it's starting to be part of that which is your consciousness. Of course, there is love and benevolence, but it starts to alter something that's very basic, and that is going to be the subject of this channel and the one that follows later tonight. Now, those listening who will say, well, where can I find that later tonight channel? I'll tell you, if you ask that, you're not listening in the right place. My partner has created in social media a place where all of these channels are. Don't miss the next one. Find it. It's not that hard. The subject is duality. The number of the year should have given you a clue. It's a master number, dear ones. In certain kinds of numerology, the 0 is treated with a value. In Tibetan, it is not. So the year 2020 becomes the number 22. It's a master number, and it really starts to stand for something you have no idea or concept of called cosmic law. You know it as duality. So this channel is going to revisit duality. But in this energy, dear ones, I got to call it like it is. I told my partner years ago, in the shower, where he receives so much information. He said to me, I don't want to channel if I'm a fool. If I come across as a fool, who's going to believe it? And that's when I gave him one of the first premises that he now teaches, apart from channeling, that he teaches. And that is this, that the spirituality is not esoteric. It must be real. It must be practical. It must work. Therefore, you don't have something that you simply float around and hope it works. Or you become part of a very isolated group of people nobody wants to talk to because you're just too strange. Instead, it must be grounding and practical and real. And that, my friends, is benevolence and love and compassion. All of those things. Every mother understands those things. That's real. I said that to him, and that was the point at which he said, I'm on board. Duality has been presented to this planet as a fallacy. If you define duality, normally the definition starts out like this. It's the struggle between good and evil. A more elegant would say it's a struggle between light and dark, and none of those things are accurate. Duality was presented to you and given to you as a gift, and it's a beautiful gift of free choice to determine your own path, dear ones, where your consciousness will take you and go. It's one of the most beautiful gifts. The story goes like this in the Garden of Eden. We're going to go to Scripture. We're going to go to a place that is so well known and understood for this example. How many times have we told you that story is a metaphor? The garden is the earth. Of course, it's Gaia, beautiful Gaia. Adam represents all men. Eve represents all women. And the whole idea of what took place there was intervention. An angel came down, according to Scripture, and touched the human beings and gave them something they never had before. They went from animals on the planet to divine beings with free choice who had a soul. That's the story. And by the way, we have given you even more details about that story. We're not doing that again. Let's stay with that one, because that one is the one that so many who would listen to this would understand. These things must be logical and practical and beautiful. Every one of you sit there as a beautiful creation by the most loving source that you can imagine. I don't have words to tell you about the creative source that lives in you, who always has their hand out, if you want to say. Did you hear that was plural? Who always has their hand out. Spirit is not singular. It's an energy that is everywhere. The creative source is not a individual. It's not a male with a beard. It's loving. It's benevolent. It's gorgeous. I want you to hold that for a moment and compare it to the story of duality. Again, as the story unfolds and the mythology happens, you were given free choice in this garden on this earth, and right away, you made a bad choice. That's the story. Now that is believable. Let me give you an example. Mother, dad, you have some children in a room and they're just growing up and you're giving the option of a salad or a chocolate bar. Now the children don't know any better. They've had no experience at all with either of these things. They don't understand the principles, the nutrition. They don't understand what's going to happen if they eat chocolate bars all their life. They don't understand any of these things. All they see is the chocolate bar is got to be better than the salad. And so they all go for the chocolate bar. You might say they made an error. They made a mistake. And at that point in time, they'll learn. Because sooner or later, they'll get sick on the chocolate and turn to the salad. And there's even been evidence that scientific research of children doing just that. But the premise is this: you don't know any better. And when you're given new things and new paradigms and given choices in those things, you don't always then go for the best choice simply because it sits there. The angels came down and gave humanity free choice to do whatever they wanted to, and all that was there was presented for them, the salads and the chocolate bars. And they made a mistake. What do you do with a child who makes that mistake? In that room are the children. Well, if you follow the mythology of spirituality, all of the children are now punished. Not only that, their ancestors are punished. Not only that, that chocolate decision is going to last thousands of years, and you're going to be tortured for it. That is the prevailing philosophy of the chocolate and the salad. Billions of people right now perceive God with a stick. God with a stick. Dear ones, that's not the God in you. The creative story has a mistake being made and you're punished forever for it. Now, does that sound practical, reasonable? Does it sound like what a divine God would do? Would you do it with your children? And how that then became the mythology of today's belief is understandable because of the energy that has prevailed until this time. There was nothing better, really. Old souls start to wake up. This channeling is not meant to make anyone wrong. It's meant to awaken an explosion to spiritual logic. That soul of yours is magnificent, and so are you. Don't let anyone tell you you were born dirty. That is mythology. And it's a mythology that makes no sense at all to a God that is beautiful, who created you in the image of love. All of you, created in his, her image. The image of love. Not the image of punishment or torture. Even today, billions believe that when they die, they'll go meet an angel. And if you don't come up to some standard, that angel is going to send you to a place that was prepared by a fallen angel because of a war in heaven. Does it get any worse than this? This is the children's story of the age, dear ones. This is Kryon getting practical, telling it like it is. It doesn't make sense. That love which so many religions feel of the love of God is totally and completely accurate. Now erase the part of the punishment, of the torture, of the evil, of that which is a decision of watching you and deciding if you're good or bad. That's not free choice. God did not give you free choice and immediately judge you on your choice. I redefine duality because of what's next, what I'm talking about tonight. Duality is the beauty of having free choice of light and dark. Did I say struggle? Sometimes those free choices of light and dark will create struggle. And that is human nature at this moment in time before it starts to shift, that you always expect the worst. And it's in your verbiage. The struggle between light and dark is the old paradigm, the old words. It's not a struggle if you make the right decision. So duality right now starts to shift. This is the year of cosmic law. This is the year of duality. And that means you're going to start seeing light and dark exposed. But the exposition of it is not going to come necessarily from your news. It's going to come first with humanity, who see things that are not correct, and then it becomes news instead of the other way around. Let me ask you a question. Going back to the salad and the chocolate, let me ask you a question. What if Adam and Eve looking at the salad and the chocolate, this is a metaphor, without being blindfolded or simply choosing the one that smelled better, which they did. What if the salad came with a lineage of information, and so did the chocolate? What if they could appear and look at them and they weren't simply things on a plate, but somehow there was a knowingness of which one to go for? Welcome to 2020, because duality is going to start talking to you. This is the meld between that which is the corporeal consciousness, which is very limited to all things three-dimensional, that would always choose chocolate, or a multidimensional meld with that which has information even about the simplest things. How many of you are now discerning things differently as you look at situations? And you'll say, I'm not really aware of that. Oh, really? Why are you sitting here? You discern truth. And you know it when you hear it, don't you? Now that's in this meeting because it's an esoteric meeting. Now project that in the future to a situation where you have to choose a political candidate. In the future, not now. 10 years from now, whatever. Where instead of a choice based upon your party or what your parents told you, you can read them. As they talk to you, you can see what's under the hood. Imagine such a thing. Imagine knowing when a situation is true or false, just around you. Just when you go into places, having a sense of knowingness, of benevolence, as opposed to non-benevolence. To be able to have coherence instead of chaos and know the difference where you're steered to certain places. Then you don't have a blindfold on anymore. Then you're not a child anymore, selecting things that might smell better. Now you're informed. That is the new duality. Tonight I want to tell you where that's going to take you because, dear ones, the veil is being lifted. It's being lifted. In all walks of life, in all things, in all paradigms, spirituality and science and education, social, it's being lifted. We'll talk a little bit about that so you might recognize some of these things as they start to happen. They're already starting. And you're going to have to make decisions on whether things are accurate or not, or true or not, proper or not. Not based upon old feelings, old soul, but an intuition that starts to flow into you. The what-ifs that you never saw before. I'll talk about this new intuition and how it might talk to you, old soul, when we convene later. This is duality. It's beautiful. It's not a struggle. It's free choice to go to the light or the dark. It's free choice without the burden of God with a stick. God with a stick, dear ones, is the human version. That's you with a children's story. That's human consciousness. That's not God consciousness. Everything about that is human. God is so far above that. I have no words. There are no human words to tell you how beautiful God inside is, with that handout that says, isn't it time you put away childish things and saw a grand truth in your life that will give you peace for the rest of your life, no matter what happens. You become more of the soul than of the human. And that's called ascension. I'll be back. And so it is.